Good morning to you. It is Monday the 11th of March. This is Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. BBC Disclosure tonight reports on the scale of domestic abuse in Scotland, telling the story of women like Lauren Hardy.
I just thought he was going to end my life that night. The thing that was running through my mind over and over and over was, if I don't make it out of this, I have to have proof.
Well, there are thousands of cases waiting to be heard in Scottish courts, and 90% of victims don't even report in the first place. Just how common is domestic abuse in Scotland, and how hard is it to get justice? 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call. Also coming up,
no privacy. The problem is you publish pictures like this and then there's more pressure.
Yep, do we have a right to know what is going on with Princess Kate? And
For the love of money.
Gotta get on the grind, giving it up to the 9-9.
this Monday with personal finance expert Fergus Muirhead. He's here to help you make the most of your money. So any questions at all, pick up the phone 08085 92 95 00. You can text 80295. We'll also be picking over the bones of last week's budget, but Fergus is here to help you with your questions, so do get in touch.
It's not easy.
I think we're going to speak to MSP Monica Lennon, who says that actually reusable nappies could save you cash and save the planet at the same time. About algorithms, YouTube has changed theirs to stop suggesting extreme content online, but who does control the algorithm?
Now serving North.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Okay, it's time for a bit of music here, and then we'll be talking after that. Here we go, Bruce Springsteen.
Midnight at the Oasis, send your camel to bed. Shadows painting our faces, traces of romance in our heads. Heaven's holding a half moon, shining just for us. Let's slip off to a sand dune real soon. Kick up a little dust. Come on, cactus is our friend. He'll point out the way. Come on, till the evening ends. Till the evening ends. You don't have to answer. There's no need to speak. I'll be your belly dancer, prancer, and you can be my sheep. I know your daddy's a sultan, a nomad known to all, with 50 girls to attend him. They all send him a jump back spectacle, but you won't need no harem, honey, when I'm by your side. And you won't need no camel, no, no, when I take you for a ride. Come got shadows painting our faces and traces, a romance in our head. Oh, come on, oh, come on. Ooh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
About that photo of Princess Catherine and the kid, apparently taken by Prince William, released by Kensington Palace to mark Mother's Day. It's now been pulled by some of the biggest international photo agencies after concerns that it had been manipulated. Now, it was released supposedly to quell some of the rumours which have sprung up as a result of Kate's absence from public life since surgery in January, but it has had the opposite effect. We're joined this morning by Indigo Stafford, entertainment reporter who runs Indigo Reports on TikTok. Morning, Indigo.
Good morning, Kay. How are you?
Very well indeed. And royal expert and podcaster Christine Ross. Morning, Christine.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Indigo, as I say there, and I think it's fair to say, isn't it, if this was supposed to sort of calm things down, it has had the opposite effect. What are some of the rumours that are out there at the moment? Conspiracy theories, some might call them?
Yeah, of course. There's been so many conspiracy theories around this topic. And like you were saying there, I think this has been a bit of a PR nightmare for them in the sense that if the point of releasing this photo was to stop these conspiracy theories from being spread, then, you know, it's only adding to fuel to the fire. Some of these conspiracy theories on the topic have ranged from, you know, she's in a really bad way with her health, to some funnier ones or more light-hearted ones that she's actually just undergoing some plastic surgery. And there's only been one theory that's been officially disputed by the palace. And this was this more sinister theory that she's actually in very poor health or that something has gone seriously wrong with the surgery. And of course, the palace maintains their narrative that she's just had an abdominal surgery and she's recovering well. But these claims came from a Spanish journalist who appeared on a TV show overseas and actually claimed that they had a source telling them that Kate's life was actually in grave danger, so much so that, you know, doctors had to battle to save her life and that she was actually placed into an induced coma. And when that started to get some traction from the UK media, that's when they took a really strong stance on this and said, look, this is absolute nonsense and there's nothing to back this theory up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have to be clear, there is absolutely no substance to that or many of the other rumours, conspiracy theories or whatever we are hearing, but nonetheless, Christine, a vacuum always allows these things to start to percolate, doesn't it?
Yes, I think this is really what we're seeing is the Kensington Palace's sort of firm stance of a very simple statement backfiring in many ways, where they've sort of clearly said she's had surgery, she's recovering, we won't provide any updates unless there is something major to share. And in the silence, these conspiracies and crazy theories have really bred almost. You know, it just takes one tweet to go viral and suddenly everyone is thinking some conspiracy. I've been listening to so many people this morning who seem to be so sure of the surgery that the Princess of Wales has had, and actually nobody knows what sort of surgery she's had apart from an abdominal procedure. And yet social media and just the media in general has sort of fueled speculation.
But does the Kensington Palace have to take some responsibility for that? I mean, should they have foreseen that this would happen?
To be honest, I think that they should have. And I wonder if Indigo will agree with me, because I think Kensington Palace was sort of operating on an outdated, idealistic way of working with the press. And to be fair, the press has been mostly respectful of this statement and the lack of updates. What they underestimated was the relationship with the people and with social media, where there are no regulations. You know, there is no IPSO regulating people with massive Twitter accounts. And those sort of, that's really where this story has caught fire and gotten out of hand, is simply TikTok conspiracy theories, tweets going viral, you know, YouTube clips that suddenly have hundreds of thousands of views, and really the social media experts that have absolutely no expertise, they have no credentials to their name, but they're fueling this fire.
But you did say there, and I think it's true, the mainstream press have been very respectful of the palace's wishes, and I think there were what was believed to be genuine paparazzi shots of Kate in the last 2 or 3 weeks, which were published overseas but were not published by the British press. Is that right?
Yeah, so the photos, you're absolutely correct. They were sort of genuine paparazzi photos. It looks like she was out on a drive with her mother, and the British press said, nope, we're not touching that.
Yeah. I mean, Indigo, there's also speculation, and we have to keep reiterating this speculation, and the story has become actually how that this has been handled rather than anything else. But there is a lot of speculation about the state of their marriage, and in terms of this particular photograph, which has been manipulated according to certain news agencies. You know, everyone's focusing on the kid's fingers, her fingers. Is she wearing a wedding ring? She doesn't appear to be wearing a wedding ring, but then we don't even know if they're her hands.
Yeah, of course. This is another big theory that's going about, is that they're actually in the throes of a bitter divorce, and that the palace is either prepping the public to get used to seeing William alone, or the palace are trying to sort the situation out before they go public with it. And this theory was already being massively fueled before this photo came out. And it kind of came from the recent statement that William made on the situation that's going on in Palestine. And that was written all from his point of view, and it was given the seal of approval by his official stamp. And a lot of people pointed out that they almost never release statements, or he almost never releases a statement like this on his own, where he takes a really strong stance on something. Usually it's signed off from both of them, and they almost always use the Kensington Palace stamp. In fact, some people were saying they can't actually remember a time when William has used his own stamp. And so this photo has now only added fuel to this theory, because even before people noticed that something was slightly off with the photo, that it perhaps looked AI generated in some way, actually the first thing that a lot of people were pointing out on social media is that she's not wearing her wedding ring. And a lot of people were saying, what would be the reason for that in a photo like this? You know, she's fully dressed, the kids appear to be fully dressed, it appears like it's formal enough a photo. So why wouldn't she have her ring on? And of course, this is just fueling even more speculation that there could be marital troubles for the pair.
And, you know, we talk about crazy theories, but actually that's not crazy, is it? I mean, lots of people, sadly, their marriages come to an end and they divorce. So, I mean, Christine, you can't necessarily say that's crazy.
No, I don't think
it's unsubstantiated. Absolutely.
It's unsubstantiated, yeah. And I don't think that the palace would go to such great lengths to convince us that she's had surgery if she hasn't indeed had surgery. I think, you know, we saw when Prince William pulled out of the church service for a personal matter, they probably would have gone with something of that sort. You know, the Princess of Wales is taking time away for a personal matter. You know, they would have come up with something, but they've been so... you know, they've really mentioned several times her recovery, her abdominal surgery, her, you know, the right to privacy and her medical concerns. I don't think they would go so far to convince us that this was definitely a medical incident if it in fact wasn't, and it was simply an issue of divorce. And I think, as with anything, any theory can really be explained two ways. With the rings, so many people are commenting that it's recommended you have to remove your rings before surgery. I know that I did when I had surgery.
She had the surgery in January.
Yes, but I mean, sure, she had the surgery about 9 weeks ago, I think now. But any course of treatment could produce more swelling. It could be that she's sitting on the sofa eating lots of ice cream and now her rings don't fit, which, I mean...
Yeah, but having said that, you know, I mean, if you were going to release a photograph, an official photograph as they had, and you were saying, oh, goodness, Kate's been eating too much ice cream and her rings don't fit anymore, but if we put this photograph out and she doesn't have them on, then it is inevitably going to lead to speculation. I mean, you know, it wouldn't take a rocket science to work that one out, would it?
No, I completely agree with you. I think that not having the rings is just asking for trouble, and they should have thought further into this. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that for every direction that you could speculate one way, you can always speculate another way. The speculation can go in any direction.
Well, and also we've got, someone who's got in touch to say, why didn't they just leave the nice photograph as William took it? Obviously, someone thought they'd tweak a few minor issues to make the photograph perfect, but it was against the policies of their company to touch up photographs, thereby compromising the integrity of the company. How ridiculous it's all become. For goodness sake, show the original photograph and put all the speculation to bed. It is entirely possible, is it not, Indigo, that there is a perfectly innocent reason for this photograph being touched up?
Yes, I suppose. I'm personally struggling to find what the reason for such a simple photograph as that would be for touching it up. It's not an overly complicated photo. It's obviously supposed to just capture a wholesome moment between a mother and her children. They're putting it out for Mother's Day. So I can't personally think of a reason why it would need to be touched up. As I said, it's not an overly complicated photo. And, I think you raised a good point when you said, there's so much speculation now and rumours, and one of those big ones is that the marriage could perhaps be in trouble. Why not just release a photo with her ring? And also, if the argument is that, they've got a right to touch up their photos, could they not have just photoshopped a ring on? If they were going to go to all the effort of doing little tweaks and they want to put out the message that their marriage is absolutely fine, perhaps that would have been a better route to go down, in fact, to actually put people's minds at rest.
I suppose it leaves that question, and Christine, I don't know where you stand on it, and there are certain commentators in the public domain who've been calling for this for weeks. The public have a right to know, what is going on. Do you think the public have a right to know what is going on? I think they've declined to comment on this picture being withdrawn from the news agencies, so they're holding the line on that one. They haven't done anything to try and explain it to us, but generally, do we have a right to know, in your opinion?
I think it's very complicated, and there's a hugely fine line. Historically, the royal family felt that the public did not have a right to know, and it's only in more modern times that we've seen more openness between the royal family and their health and their medical concerns. You think about Queen Elizabeth, King George, he had lung cancer and was dying, and the public didn't really know until he had died and Queen Elizabeth II had ascended the throne. So the public knowledge of medical issues is really a modern conversation. Do they have a right to know? I'm not really sure.
Well, of course, we have King Charles, who's been very open about his diagnosis.
And I think that contrast has only made this issue worse. King Charles has been very open, especially for a monarch, and he has still been in the public eye during his cancer treatments, whereas the Princess of Wales has taken a completely different track, and it's really not served her well. I think that in this modern age of 24/7 news cycles of influencers and celebrities sharing every part of their day, it's unrealistic to expect that the most famous woman in the world could just disappear for 12 weeks and no one would speculate or start asking questions. And I think, do they have a right to know? I really wouldn't say, but the smart thing to do would be to give more information, be slightly more open about this situation, to get ahead, not only to get ahead of the news cycle, but I think people would be overwhelmingly sympathetic about it.
Yeah, well, this story isn't going anywhere, despite the best efforts of Kensington Palace to shut it down. I'm sure we'll be talking about it again. Christine, thank you very much. Christine Ross, co-host of Us, a Royally Us podcast, and Indigo Stafford, who runs Indigo Reports on TikTok. Be interested to hear from you this morning on that one. Do you think we, the public, have a right to know what is going on here? Or are the royal family entirely entitled to their privacy and it's up to them to call the shots? Get in touch and let us know. 80295.
To unlock your body's potential, we proudly offer Soloflex. 24 old-fashioned iron pumping exercises, each correct in form and balance. All on a simple machine that fits in the corner of your home. For a free brochure, call anytime.
Oh, it's 10:25. Kay Adams with you till 12 on BBC Radio Scotland. When you're conscious of your budget, is it true?
It's not easy being green.
Case MSP Monica Lennon will be here to try and persuade parents that reusable nappies can save you money and save the planet into the bargain. There you go. That's what you call a win-win situation.
After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. After midnight, we're gonna chug a lug and shout. We're gonna stimulate some action. We're gonna get some satisfaction. We're gonna find out what it is all about. What it is all about. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. After midnight, we're gonna shake your tambourine. After midnight, after midnight, after midnight, so gonna be peaches and cream. After midnight, gonna cause talk and suspicion. We're gonna give an exhibition. We're gonna find out what it is all about. What it is all about. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. After midnight, we're gonna shake your tambourine. Gonna shake a tambourine. Gonna shake a tambourine. After midnight, so gonna be peaches and cream. Shake a tambourine. Gonna shake a tambourine. Gonna cause talk and suspicion. We're gonna give an exhibition. We're gonna find out what it is all about. What it is all about. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down. After midnight, we're gonna let it all hang down.
Well, what do we have here?
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
That was, of course, Beyonce. That was a wee deliberate mistake there. Well, it wasn't a deliberate mistake. It was just a good old-fashioned mistake. But we do have Texas coming up. We do. Yeah, Beyonce and Texas Hold'em. Right, it is time for our savings surgery this morning. Personal finance expert Fergus Muirhead is here to help you make the most of your money. Taking calls from 11 o'clock as usual. 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call, or you can text 80295. Good morning to you, Fergus. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. We'll talk about the budget later because we've got an interesting story about thousands of homeowners, tens of thousands of homeowners trapped in an excessively high mortgage rate. But just as a wee headline, did you enjoy the budget? Do you ever enjoy the budget? Is it something that as a personal finance expert you think, oh goody, it's budget day today?
No, very rarely. It's one of these things that you have to watch and listen to out of professional curiosity, if not anything else. But I found last week's one of the most boring.
Oh, did you? Are they ever exciting?
Yeah, sometimes they are exciting, and sometimes he comes out with things that you're genuinely not expecting to hear from. I mean, I remember sitting in a studio with John Beattie and Douglas Fraser the day George Osborne announced pension flexibility, and that was huge because no one ever expected a Chancellor to say you can take all of the money out of your pension whenever you want. It was just out the blue, and the three of us looked at each other. Did he really say that? And of course, as you dig deeper into what he actually said or what he didn't say, I mean, what he says on the floor of the House is the tip of the iceberg. There's lots of papers come out later on that afternoon and the next morning that people who are much cleverer than me have got to wade through to see what he really meant by what he said. But just that announcement, the limitations on the way you took money out of your pension were going, that was really interesting. But I just found last week really boring. Everything that he said, or pretty much everything that he said, had been really widely trailed
Headlined,
beforehand, and therefore there was nothing that was a real surprise. And you know, for a Chancellor who's I don't want to stray into politics, but given that there's going to be an election at some point this year, for a Chancellor who must have at least one eye on who's going to be voting for them later on in the year, you'd have thought there was something slightly more creative he could have come up with last week. But
I would imagine, I would hazard both eyes on. Well, we're told there may be another fiscal event, which sounds rather painful.
I think that's really interesting that you say that, because it's not really interesting there's going to be another fiscal event, but we've now got a budget or a fiscal statement in the spring and one in the autumn, and you have to start questioning whether there's actually a real need for both, especially in a year like this year when there's going to be a budget and something is going to be said before the budget as well, because that is where the politics start to get played. But it's fascinating.
Indeed.
But no, I didn't really enjoy it last week.
Okay, I was just checking. I just thought it might be a red letter day in your calendar. So this is an interesting story, and it's being highlighted by SNP MP Martin Docherty Hughes. Perhaps you'd like to explain it, Fergus.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a new story. It's a story that has been around for a while, but every so often somebody tries to do something else about it, and it kind of rears its head again. And it's about what they're calling mortgage prisoners, who are people who, for a whole number of different reasons, are not able to remortgage. And therefore they find themselves stuck with a lender that they've been with for a long number of years. In many cases because and we've talked about this before, the criteria by which you're allowed to get a mortgage change from time to time. Lenders decide that you need to have a certain amount of income, or you need to be borrowing less than a certain percentage of the value of the property you're buying, or you need to have a permanent job, or you don't need to be self-employed, or a whole range of criteria that they use when they're assessing suitability for mortgages. That changes all the time. And before the financial crash in 2008, it was an awful lot easier to get a mortgage than it is today, in many cases, and as we've discussed before.
And some people would say rightly.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There were some lenders, before the financial crash, who were lending 120, 125% of the value of a property, sometimes with good reason, but not always. And therefore people were allowed to borrow money that are not allowed to borrow money now. And the problem comes from the fact that a lot of these borrowers have got mortgages with lenders who are no longer lending to new customers, and therefore their mortgage rates are not always competitive. They've got one standard variable rate, and they don't have, so some borrowers don't have access within that company's books because they're not lending freshly to the best deal. So they're often stuck with mortgages that are really uncompetitive and really expensive, and they're paying way over the odds, but there's nowhere for them to go because they don't meet the criteria of other lenders, hence the term mortgage prisoners. And
they can't transfer that mortgage to another provider?
They can't transfer the mortgage because for whatever reason they don't meet the criteria that the new lender is now going to impose on new borrowings. So they're stuck, in some cases paying thousands or even tens of thousands of pounds over the years more than they would be paying if they were able to access the best deals that are on the market.
So is Martin Docherty Hughes, he's looking for a sort of government intervention in this?
Well, he is. He's looking for the government to say we were involved in this because we partly caused what happened in 2008. Therefore, we should do something to help borrowers. But the difficulty that the government has got is it's dealing with a whole bunch of private companies, and the financial regulator really needs to step in if something is going to be done to change the criteria. But as you said right at the start, there are some ways in which the new criteria makes for more responsible borrowing, because there's no question that people were allowed to borrow money who shouldn't have been getting mortgages in the first place. And the fact that the building societies and the banks and the credit unions, kind of tidied up their act a bit and didn't lend as irresponsibly now, or don't lend as irresponsibly now as they were lending then, has made it better for people by and large. But
really
these
tough.
tens of thousands of people have been caught
in the middle
to go.
Yeah. Well, there may be people out there who are in that situation who are listening, and
but I think what it also does, Kay, is it also brings to the fore the fact that mortgages are a really important thing. I mean, it's the most money that the vast majority of us will borrow for anything, and we need to get it right. So although this story doesn't affect everyone, mortgages affect most of us, and it's really important to have that conversation about when you're taking out a loan, you need to understand the implications of the loan that you're taking out and the terms and conditions of that loan, so that you know what your options are should your circumstances change going forward.
Well, mortgages is often something that we get questions in about, and we're happy to have them. Fergus is happy to help you out if you've got an issue with that. But anything at all to do with your personal finances, how to make the most of your money, Fergus will do his very best to help. So 08085 92 95 00 is a number to call. You can text 80295.
Excuse me, madam. You're standing still in a no parking zone. If you don't get a move on that body, I'll be forced to give you a ticket. So get with it.
Be much better if you
children. She has apologised. The Princess of Wales has apologised for any confusion over the Mother's Day family photograph, saying that, and I quote, she occasionally experiments with editing. Yes, so that's it. That is the statement. The Princess of Wales has apologised for any confusion over the Mother's Day family photograph, saying that she occasionally experiments with editing. Well, I hope they don't think that's going to shut things down, because I can think of 100 doors that it has just opened. But there you go. We'll keep a watching brief on that one. Share your thoughts on this situation with the royal family. Do you not give a monkeys, quite frankly? It really doesn't bother you. You're not. Oh, hang on, there's the full thing. Excuse me. Like many amateur photographers, I do occasionally experiment with editing. I wanted to express my apologies for any confusion the family photograph we shared yesterday caused. I hope everyone celebrating had a very happy Mother's Day. Signed, C. So there you go. That was a tweet, actually, I think, or an X. What is the word for a post that you put on X? Is it an X? So that was an X from the Prince and Princess of Wales, but it is signed off as C, and that came in at 10:28 this morning. Share us your thoughts. Like I say, are you bothered at all? Or do you think actually you want a little bit more transparency from the royal family as to what is going on? 80295 is the text number. Now, 8 million disposable nappies are sent to landfill every day in the UK, but they are still the preferred choice of the vast majority of parents. MSP Monica Lennon wants that to change, and she is backing the nationwide rollout of a North Ayrshire scheme where parents get the chance to try so-called real nappies for free. And she's with us now. Good morning, Monica.
Good morning, Kay.
Good morning. So it's been a bit of a hard sell to people, isn't it? Reusable nappies for one reason and another. Why are you getting behind it?
Well, people are really struggling with the cost of living, and I had read that each baby could use more than 5,000 nappies before they're fully potty trained, and that's really, really expensive. And we also know that single-use nappies are doing a lot of damage to the environment. So the scheme in North Ayrshire has been running since 2019, and it does feel like a win-win for parents who are worried about the environment but also are really worried about their energy bills and the costs of looking after their family. And when I spoke to the council about it, they said, well, actually, it's cost neutral for us because they save on the landfill costs. So families can try reusable nappies for free. And if they want to continue, they can get a kit that lasts from birth through to potty. So it seems like a really good initiative. And alongside that, if people just want to get a hold of a reusable nappy, see what it's like, the Baby Box also has a voucher, and not that many people are redeeming the voucher. So I think there's an awareness issue, Kay. So hopefully today's conversation will help with that, because if you don't know people using real nappies, you maybe don't know that much about it, and what you do know about it can put you off, because it sounds quite disgusting, doesn't it, having to wash nappies?
Well, I mean, I guess previous generations did it as routine, but certainly since disposable nappies have been widely available, it is something that's kind of viewed with a bit of a yuck factor. But what about you? You've got a young one, haven't you?
Well, not so young now. She'll be 18 this year.
Oh, God,
I did use reusable nappies.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
You were ahead of your time.
Well, I must have been. I mean, I was a bit of an environment geek even back then. But what kind of drew me towards it was some of the benefits around health and well-being. So being kinder on baby's skin, avoiding lots of nasty chemicals that go into the single-use nappies. So that was quite attractive for me. But there are challenges. I remember my mum saying, "You're never going to stick with this." So perhaps me being quite stubborn had to sort of prove her wrong. So again, it helps if you have a garden to get them out to dry. And again, you don't have to be a purist about this. You can do a bit of a hybrid approach. And if you're out and about and you're having a stressful day, if you've got disposable nappies, it's not a crime to use them. But I think what is criminal is the cost of nappies now, and the fact that nappy theft is on the rise. You go into the supermarket, they've got security tags on them. A lot of people are struggling. Yeah. I actually raised it in Parliament recently with the Social Justice Secretary, and we had this really grim conversation about nappy rationing. So families are now trying to, minimise the number of nappies that they use. But in quite extreme cases where there's a lot of poverty and hardship, there's wee babies in nappies for too long and they're getting really bad rashes and outbreaks in their skin. So health visitors are working with charities to try and get nappies out to families. It's the same with baby formula as well, which is another really expensive essential item. So there's a bigger issue about the profit that the big companies are making. But the reusable nappies, they are a bit pricey to buy up front. That's why these schemes like the one in Ayrshire are really good. And I'm working with the government, the Scottish Government, to try and widen this out so that really good initiative isn't just for one council. People across Scotland can hopefully benefit in the near future.
Yeah, and you're working with the Circular Economy Minister, Lorna Slater, aren't you? And actually she's given us a statement. I welcome Ms Lennon's efforts to encourage more local authorities to develop reusable nappy schemes. Look forward to learning more about this initiative when I visit later this month. Reusable nappies cut waste can be a great and economical option for parents. Why Scotland's Baby Box includes a redeemable voucher for reusable nappies, and families are offered a discounted package should they wish to continue to use them. Though you were saying there, Monica, that there hasn't been a terrific uptake of that.
Yeah, it's quite low. Only about 14% of parents are redeeming the voucher in the Baby Box. There's now a QR code, so it's a little bit easier, but 14% is really low. So I think we need more education and more public information around this.
Mm-hmm. We've also got with us Charlotte Liddle, who is a mum of 2 and a full-time student. I mean, I think your kids are past the nappy stage too, Charlotte, but when they were younger, did you see it as an option, the reusable nappies?
No, I actually didn't. I didn't feel like that was an option available to me just because I was a young parent. I lived on a council estate. I've always seen reusable products as, a world that's not achievable for me because of the cost. It was so expensive. And just, you'd have to be so organised to remember to wash them, to dry them. You've already got so much things to worry about as a new parent. You're sleep deprived. It just wouldn't be sustainable to carry that on.
But initially, on a cost level, it was the upfront cost that was the deterrent for you, Charlotte.
Yeah, the cost and, accessibility. There's not very much high street stores that you can just go into and buy reusable nappies. If there is, I definitely still don't know about them. So you would have to order them online, wait for them to arrive. It's not something you can just get easily. And if family members are watching the baby, they also have to get some if you're not wanting to share them. It's just a lot for everyone.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested that you said that you kind of just didn't feel instinctively that they were for you. I mean, did you feel they were for, I don't know, more kind of middle-class people, if that's the right expression?
Yeah, you've explained that perfectly.
I mean, Anya Hart-Dykes with us, who's a Parent and Climate Education Network Coordinator for Transition at University of St Andrews. Hi, Anya.
Hi there, good morning.
Hi. Do you think reusable nappies are a product that fall into that category of, that's all right for people, middle-class people that are perhaps, a little bit more financially well off and, are concerned about the planet, etc. But for hardworking people who are just trying to get by day, it's a luxury and not really something that they're going to be able to work into their lives?
Well, yeah, I mean, the only reason I tried them out back in the day when my 6 and 9-year-old were babies was because I knew someone in the community where I live who had done with hers and shared them with me to try them, because there's no way you're going to stump up this huge initial cost to try something that may not work for you. And actually they didn't work for us. You could do a hybrid approach, which I think is brilliant.
Why didn't they work for you, Charlotte? Anya. Apologies. Sorry.
My youngest has very sensitive skin and actually got very, very sore. I may not have this. They came to me as he was sort of coming out of nappies, so I might have tried a little harder and revisited and tried to find different brands or different ways of doing it. But I think the initiative in North Ayrshire is fantastic because it gets around the cost side of it, the fact that you also get to meet people who've tried them who can maybe show you how to do them. That would have helped me as well. The person I knew just sort of handed them to me, which was great, but didn't give me any guidance as such. I should have asked probably. But I think we shouldn't, baby years are really tough at the best of times, never mind the worst of times. And I think we shouldn't lose too much energy and certainly not sort of confidence in ourselves to do the right thing over nappies. I think that's one of the hardest things is to, as well as the yuck factor and the expense and the hassle, and if you're out and about trying to do that on the go and then carry dirty nappies around, it's a really tough ask. There's lots of other ways you can do the right thing, make good choices, and those are much simpler to do than washable nappies.
Monica, interesting listening to Anya and Charlotte there. What does it make you think about your way in here then, if you're going to try and persuade people to be more open to trying reusable nappies?
Yeah, really good to hear from both Charlotte and Anya, because there are barriers. I'm really aware of that. I think that peer support and speaking to other parents, other families who've had good and bad experience, I think that's really key. So in Ayrshire, they have a network of volunteers in the Ayrshire Nappy Library. So it's led by mums. I would say parents, but I think it's mostly mums who are doing the volunteering. And some of the mums that they've supported really are at the sharp end of poverty, and they even struggle with the cost of washing powder. So they help out with things like that. But this is not about giving people more stress and more things to worry about. It is about increasing choice so people know that they do have other options. So I suppose I can compare it slightly to the work I've done around free period products. Part of that legislation gives people the chance to try reusable period products. Again, maybe they wouldn't go out and spend 20 quid on a menstrual cup or buy reusable pads, but it's given loads of people the chance to try that out. And that's one of the most popular things that I hear back from people, because I get emails from around Scotland and beyond saying, we really like the fact that this is helping to address issues around environment and sustainability. Even just sorting out the packaging, some of the the plastic that we don't actually need in the packaging. So hopefully it opens up a conversation. The fact that North Ayrshire's been doing it really well and is seen as like a leader in the UK, that's positive. And next month, after I've been on the visit with Lorna Slater, the Minister to North Ayrshire, it's Reusable Nappy Week, which again runs across the UK, and it's a chance for people to maybe go online, share their stories, and for our council to raise awareness as well.
Yeah, just to widen access and give people choices. Monica, thank you very much for your time this morning. MSP Monica Lennon. Thanks also to Charlotte Liddle and to Anya Hart-Dyke there. Again, always great to get your experiences. Have you tried reusable nappies? Did they work for you and your family? 80295. Do get in touch. Coming up after 11 this morning.
For the love of money. Gotta make that money, man. Money, man, it's still the same now. Gotta make that money, man. Money, man, it's still the same now.
With his savings surgery, lots of text dropping in. 80295 is the text number. How to make the most of your money. Fergus is here to help. Also, you can give him a call. The lines are open. 08085 92 95 00. Now, communication is the key to good relationships, we're told. And when it comes to romantic connections, the advice is to openly discuss your expectations at an early stage in the relationship. But does the same apply to platonic friendships? Do you need to set boundaries? Relationship psychologist Emma Kenny is with us. Morning, Emma.
Good morning.
Good morning. And also broadcaster Daniela Gualtieri. Good morning, Daniela.
Morning, Kate.
Good morning. It sounds a bit formal, Emma, doesn't it, setting boundaries in your friendships?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle, particularly as they're quite fluid and they evolve and you don't really know who's going to be a close friend. And I think it's a bit of an off-putter, if I'm honest. And often the reality is that you're the person who just needs to know your own limits and be okay with those limits, as opposed to getting to a point in a friendship where you're like, let's sit down and do an organised chart of what you're allowed to expect from me. I mean, I think it would make me not want to be your friend if you set up that kind of challenge for me. I was like, this is really weird. But each to their own, I suppose.
Yeah, no, a contract before you get a cup of coffee.
Right.
But interesting what you say, that maybe what you have to do is set your own boundaries. And Danielle, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think that is what can often happen in friendships, isn't it? That a friend maybe just wants more from you than you are comfortable with, but it becomes kind of difficult to sort of, say, no, I'm going to draw the line there. Have you been in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're saying, you think things are going well, and then they just kind of want more and more and more. And like you say, that's maybe not how you thought the friendship was. It might have been, like you're saying, a colleague's relationship, and you go, like, this only goes so far for me, but they sort of think, oh, you're one of my besties, and it's kind of like a mixed, like you're saying, mixed communication, and you go, oh, it's a bit more than I bargained for here.
And so if you've been in that situation, how do you find yourself dealing with it? Which I suppose will depend on your personality type. Some people find it easier than others to sort of say, no, I'm not going there.
Yeah, I just struggle with it, to be honest. I'm a kind of chronic people pleaser, so it is something that I need to get better at. I definitely don't set the boundaries, and it's something as I get older, it's more relevant in my life to do. But yeah, I'm quite bad in these situations. I just kind of go with the flow. But internally, I'm like, oh, this is a lot.
Yeah. So how would you deal with that situation then, Emma, that you're sort of getting into situations that you don't really want to, but you don't really want to be the person who's pouring cold water on things?
Yeah, the classic repeat offender is always the pleaser, the person who just feels that they always have to be all things to everybody, and then deeply beneath the surface just is festering with resentment, because it really is what ends up being the case. And that means that you end up not necessarily wanting friendships a lot of the time, because it becomes overwhelming. So first of all, your history is your predictor. So your history, you look at it and you go, where are my pitfalls in friendships? A, B and C, they're going to be evident. So when you get new friends, your ideal scenario is to reframe the way that you talk to them when it comes down to time frames. And that comes down to things like, if somebody's ringing me 7 days a week, 2 hours, that's just not going to be able to be sustained. So what I do there is, I love talking to you, but I only have on a Wednesday this break within my time scale that I need, that I can actually talk to you at length. Because then you're not saying I'm not here, and you're not saying I don't care, you're just saying this is all I've got. And in my priority list, you're still in it. So how lucky are you? As opposed to going, you are too much, you have to come back to, this is all I have. So arguably you own it. The person can't be offended by it because you're still giving them time, and you're also setting those parameters without that person feeling aggrieved. Because otherwise, like I said, you end up just burnt out. People will always take as much as you give. And unfortunately, unless you have people who are very aware about time and management of that, the way it works is that people will keep bleeding you dry. So you just have to reframe it. Like I said, always be very honest about the time that you have, and make it clear they're flipping lucky to get that time from you when you have it. And as like you said as well, another thing is, you don't have to be friends with people just because they like you. The thing is, people will be in your sphere who think you're great and interesting and funny, and they just think that you're going to be a great person to connect with. And if you're a warm human being, that means they're going to come knocking on your door. And if they're really not that for you, just don't take it further, and don't be afraid to just not take it further. And that also solves a lot of problems. When people say, at the end of our lives, you're lucky to count your hands and putting a friend on one hand, I'm like, who's got time for more than that? Who's got time for good friendships more than 3 or 4? Just be okay with not pursuing them.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm listening to you give very good advice, as you always do, Emma, but I'm still thinking, I don't know what you're thinking, Daniela. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know if I could do that.
But then that's the thing, is it? Ultimately, it's the ownership of, well, it's my problem, not their problem. So even if you sat down and gave them a contract that they signed saying this is what I expect and this is what you can expect from me, you won't follow it yourself. Until you're able to just say, this is all I've got and it's okay, and I don't have to be the best human being to every human being around me. I just have to be good to those who I really want to share time with and space with. That's key. You're not a perfect human, never will be. Be okay with that.
There you go, Daniela. That's the challenge. That is the challenge. Listen, thank you very much indeed, Daniela Gualtieri there and Emma Kenny. Lots of people getting in touch about reusable nappies. You can keep those coming in. And Fergus is here for finance surgery, 80295.
On digital.
With personal finance expert Fergus Muirhead here to answer any of your questions about making the most of your money. Give him a call, 08085 92 95 00, or indeed text 80295. YouTube have changed theirs.
Should we be worried about them? Can they think for themselves? What on earth is an algorithm?
Yeah, well, they've become one of the mysteries of the modern world, haven't they? We will try to unpack algorithms for you. And at the Oscars last night,
I'm just kidding.
yeah, Ryan Gosling stole the show with his performance of I'm Just Ken from the Barbie movie. The writer behind the song claims that it's helped young boys to express their feelings. So how can music help you deal with emotions? All that before Now and Noon.
This one's called
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
minutes past 11, and Fergus Muirhead, our personal finance expert, is with me in the studio. He's ready to take your calls. You ready, Fergus?
I am indeed.
I'm ready. Any questions at all about your savings, about retirement budgeting, about mortgages perhaps? We were speaking about that earlier on. These group of people being referred to as mortgage prisoners, pension contributions, whatever it is, Fergus, happy to help. 08085 92 95 00, or you can text 80295. But we're going to speak to Ronald first, and actually Ronald's going to ask a question that I was really interested in as well. Good morning to you, Ronald.
Good morning, Kay. There's no feedback on the line now from the teller.
No, we seem to be hearing you perfectly, Ronald. Nothing to worry about. Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to ask, it's regarding the proposed question mark, the takeover of Virgin Money by Nationwide Building Society.
Mm-hmm.
Now, briefly, I was with Clydesdale Bank. This goes back to about 10 years ago. I think you'll know where I'm reaching. And then there was no consultation to any customers. It was taken over by Virgin Money, just to sign up on the bank window. No consultation with the customer. And now we have Nationwide probably taking over Virgin Money. You know, I just feel that the customer doesn't matter anymore. It's all, you've got no say, we'll keep your money, but sorry, you're only a customer. You know, it's the way. So I'm in Airdrie. There's only one bank, Bank of Scotland. I don't know, probably the same will happen with that. But
do you have money with Virgin?
Yes, I've got everything I've got. But I go back. I've always been with when it was Clydesdale Bank.
Right,
But
okay. So you feel that you're being passed from one to the other, your savings, and yet you don't have any say in it?
You don't have any say in it, no.
Fergus?
Yeah, I think Ronald's probably right. I think there's lots of people feel that that's the way customers have been treated by some of the major banks for more than a small number of years now. You know, and if you have a large organisation, a bank which is owned by its shareholders, then it's the shareholders that tend to dictate policy rather than customers. And I think the interesting word that you used there, Ronald, is proposed, because at the moment it is just a proposal that Virgin Money takes over. Nationwide takes over Virgin Money. And I have actually been reading in the press this morning that Nationwide members, because remember that Nationwide is a building society rather than a bank, so unlike most of the big banks that are owned by shareholders, which in some cases might be a little bit of us through the government, but in the main it's corporate shareholders, Nationwide Building Society is still a mutual society and is owned by its members, and there has been a bit of a clamour on behalf of the members of Nationwide this morning, saying that before this takeover takes place, the members should be granted a vote. So maybe that answers a bit of your question there, Ronald, about Nationwide's customers being given a voice in whether this takeover happens or not. Certainly doesn't help you as a Virgin customer, but it may well be the case that Nationwide customers will be able to vote as members of Nationwide Building Society if they're not shareholders.
But would Ronald be at liberty, presumably would be, to take his money out at this point and put it somewhere else?
Absolutely, and I think, you know, I think I've long argued that if more of us argued with our feet and moved money away from banks and building societies that were charging us too much for money that we borrowed from them, or that weren't giving us enough in interest from money that we saved with them, then it might make the banks act a wee bit quicker than they have done over the years, because they've been notoriously slow at passing on interest rate hikes to savers at the same time as they've passed on interest rate rises to borrowers. So, you know, the comments Ronald made about customers not having a say in how the bank operates and do they really operate for the benefit of customers has been an argument that's been ongoing for a long number of years. And I think most of us, you know, more of us should be voting with our feet and moving money if we do get a chance to somewhere that's paying a higher rate of interest.
I mean, Ronald, apart from being, you know, irritated that as a customer your view hasn't been taken into account, I mean, are you concerned about the takeover?
Well, I'm a bit, because I just feel it's Russian roulette with your money. I know you've got the 85,000. Everybody has financial compensation. In other words, your money is protected. But I just feel it's Russian roulette with my money. You know, I often think just now. On Thursday, when this came out, really. I've got to go to Kirkintilloch, which is the nearest Virgin money from Airdrie, on the bus. And when I went in just to put a cheque in, not a soul in the bank in Kirkintilloch. And the cashier said, there's nobody in it. She said, you could have done that online as if the naughty person, and you could have done it without coming to me. And so even the personal approach when you get to a branch, I think to myself, is it worth it? Just,
Well, I mean, I guess as Fergus says, could it be the time for you to kind of look around, Ronald, and say, well, what other institution could give me the service that I'm looking for?
Yeah, I think Ronald made a really important point there about protection of savings that he has with Virgin, because he's absolutely right that at the moment the first £85,000 worth of savings that you have with any financial institution that's regulated is covered by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. But you need to be really careful. So the proposed Nationwide and Virgin merger is not the only one that we're hearing about at the moment. Barclays and Tesco are going through the same procedure at the moment. And at the moment, if you've got 85,000 in Barclays and 85,000 in Tesco, it'll be protected separately because these two bodies are regulated separately. But once they become one, and perhaps once Virgin and Nationwide become one, then you might be reduced from 2 times £85,000 worth of protection to 1 times 85,000. So you need to be really careful about having money in multiple accounts if mergers take place. That you've got two lots. So Nationwide is saying that the proposal would be that Virgin Money would keep its identity for 6 years. So you might be able to trade. You might be able to have an account with an institution that says Virgin, even though it's part of the Nationwide group for 6 years, but you need to check how they are regulated, because if they're both regulated under the same umbrella, then you might not have 2 lots of £85,000 protection if you've got money with both institutions. So I think if Ronald is feeling uncomfortable, if you are feeling uncomfortable, Ronald, maybe as Kay says, it is the time to start having a wee look at where your money is held. And I think we're also at a time just now where people are more aware that that different bank accounts with different institutions pay different rates of interest. And if it's your money that is in the bank to help you, not to help the bank. So if you can find a higher rate of interest elsewhere, or terms and conditions elsewhere that suit you better, then just take your money out and move them.
I guess it just kind of goes out against a sort of long-held custom and practice with people that, I've banked with such and such a bank since I was 17 years of age. That's I think that's changing very much. But
interestingly, for people who are my age, I know lots of people who, when I was at university, that there was and it's interesting we're talking about Clydesdale because Virgin Money was Clydesdale at one point, but there was a Clydesdale bank in the refectory at Glasgow University, and lots of people opened their student account with Clydesdale Bank that I was at university with in the late 70s, and they've still got accounts with Clydesdale because they just haven't moved them ever since, for 40 or 50 years.
But you're very much an advocate for being aware of what is out there and making sure that you get the best deal. And on that note, Martin Lewis has issued a bit of a warning about a Santander account.
Yeah, and it's the same sort of subject, that Santander has an account which has been paying a certain rate of interest, and it's now saying that it's going to pay a lower rate of interest. It's just back to, if you've got money with an institution, make sure that the rate of interest that you're getting is the best rate of interest that you can find for the money that you're saving with them. And because the difference between it, they're cutting from 5.2% to 4.2% in a month or two. Now, that's a big difference if you've got a lot of money invested with them. So it's all about, can you get somebody else? All these comparison sites exist now. It's possible to go into these comparison sites and open an account online. Now, I know that everyone's not comfortable with that, and I know Ronald was saying a minute ago that he's quite happy to go into a branch and do things on site. But for people who are happy to go online and to open accounts online, it's all easy to do online now. And I'm not suggesting it's safe. Again, if you see that sign that says Financial Services Compensation Scheme on the account that you're opening, then it means that the account that you're opening is protected. First 85,000 is protected by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. It's easy to do. It can be done online. And if you're comfortable transacting stuff online, then go online and do it.
Fergus Muirhead, personal finance expert. 08085 92 95 00 is the number to call to speak to Fergus, or you can drop us a text on 80295. Peter has texted. He says, I have an NSI guaranteed growth bond for approximately £20,000, which is due to mature this month. I was going to reinvest, but NSI changed conditions. Here we are again. And now there is no early access, which I may require. Where would you suggest as an alternative, giving access if required?
Again, we're back to the same subject as we were talking about a minute ago. It's somebody that's got money with one institution. That institution is changing its terms and conditions. I think that particular growth bond was paying over 5%, or is paying over 5%, depending on the term that you want to invest for. If Peter was going to reinvest, obviously there's something in the new terms and conditions that Peter's not happy with. In this case, it's early access, and there's no point going for an account that's got the highest interest rate only to find that you need to access it before the end of any fixed rate period, and you lose the benefit of that higher rate. So you need to make sure that the account that you're going to open is suitable for what you might want to do with your money in the short term. So if that account is not suitable for Peter, then again it's a case of going back online, looking at the comparison sites. If Peter needs access to his money immediately, then he just needs to look for the best instant access account. If he's able to hold to tie up for a year, then he might get a slightly better rate if he does something.
It does rely,
rate.
I think, in terms of getting the best information, the most up-to-date information, though, because we say it very casually in a conversation. It relies on people being comfortable online, having online access, being able to navigate online. And I'm not saying this in any way to be condescending to people, but not everybody is comfortable.
No, it absolutely
with that.
does, because if you're not comfortable doing that, then you're back to the situation that we were discussing with Ronald a minute ago, because he lives in Airdrie, and Airdrie only has one bank, and if he would rather go in and do his money business in the branch, then he doesn't have the ability to go and look at what Barclays and Tesco and Virgin and Clydesdale and Bank of Scotland and Royal Bank of Scotland are offering, because he doesn't have them all within the geographic area. He can't. What we might be comfortable doing remotely, he used to be able to do just by walking up the high street in Airdrie and going into every branch and looking at who's got the highest rate of interest. That's not possible now.
It does make me wonder if there's a real issue with exclusion from the best financial products if people aren't comfortable with.
Oh no, there's no question that people are being excluded. There's no question that people who are not comfortable online are being excluded from the best mortgage deals, from the best savings rates, from the best loans, and from lots, not just with money, but in relation to everything that you buy. So much is assumed now. There's so much assumption about what we can do online and what we should be comfortable doing online, even going in and paying for stuff. There's just this assumption that we'll go in and take a phone or a watch or a credit card against the machine. And not everyone is comfortable doing that. And options are reducing for people who are not comfortable doing that. And nowhere is it clearer than when we're talking about this sort of thing. Because if there's only one bank in Airdrie, and the option to using the best interest rate that bank offers is to go into Glasgow or Edinburgh or somewhere else that's got more branches and walk round the city and find a higher rate, then most people are not going to do that with the best will in the world.
No, absolutely not. On a different subject, this is from Paula. She says, I'm retired and our house is paid off. Our nephew is 22 and in work, but he can't get on the property ladder. So could I sell him the house? What are the downsides and the advantages?
It's a fascinating question because it raises so many more questions than it actually answers. And I don't know whether Paula means that she sells him the house that she's living in at the moment, or that she remortgages. I mean, there are so many things that Paula could do if she's thinking about giving her nephew access to cash that he doesn't otherwise have.
So let's just take it that Paula's in a house that she has paid off and she wants to help her nephew. Is there a means by which she could do that?
Well, if she sells the house to her nephew, then he owns the house. But Paula needs somewhere to live, and so does he. And the only way that he can buy the house from her is if he gets a mortgage, which is what she's saying that he can't do, because I'm presuming that's what she means when she says that he can't get on the property ladder, unless she means that she's prepared to sell him the house that she's living in at a price that is much less than it is worth. and he can get so he can afford to borrow enough without having a deposit, because she'll do whatever deal needs to be done to allow that to happen. So yes, there are lots of things that could potentially be done here, but none of them should be done without Paula speaking very seriously to a solicitor first about the pros and cons of each of these things that she is doing, and about what it is that her nephew is trying to achieve. So she could give him the house. She could give him the house, and then he could go and get some sort of mortgage on that property. But as I say, she's then got to go and find somewhere else to live, unless they
Could
want to
she
live
release
together.
money from the house?
She could take a mortgage out in her own name, but that might be difficult if she's retired, depending on what her pension situation is. But if she's got no mortgage, she could get a mortgage on the property and either pay it off via pension income, or just do it on what they call an equity release basis, which means that she borrows money against the value of the property but doesn't actually make any repayments on that, and the debt is paid off when she dies, depending if that's got other complications depending on who else is living in the house with Paula. So there are options, but it's certainly not a clear-cut situation.
No. So
but
that
the
would be
situation that her nephew is facing is one that's been faced by lots of people at the moment, because property prices are increasing, and have been doing so for years. And as we said right at the top, lots of people are finding that mortgages aren't quite as flexible and easily accessible as they were a number of years ago. So people who don't have huge deposits are not finding mortgages as easy to come by, and certainly not as cheap as they were a few years ago.
But it would be worth Paula going to see what an independent financial advisor...
Independent financial advisor, a mortgage broker, and just sitting talking through options, depending on what it is that she is trying to achieve, and getting her nephew involved from day one as well, because it'll be important to know what his financial circumstances are as well. Is he employed? How much is he earning? Has he got any debt? Has he got any other income coming from anywhere else? What's Paula's pension income? What other assets has she got? A whole range of questions that need to be answered, but there are possibly things that could be done to help each other.
Okay, cool. Fergus, thank you very much indeed. Fergus Muirhead there, and we'll see you very soon, Fergus. Thank you very much. It is 11:26, of course, lunchtime live here at 12 o'clock, and Barry's going to tell us what's coming up. Morning.
Good morning. Yes, well, it's done exactly the opposite of what was intended. That Mother's Day.
I know what you're talking about already.
Yeah, of the Princess of Wales with her children. She's now apologised for photo editing, but will it dampen the speculation about her? Also in Brussels, an accession ceremony has been held for Sweden joining NATO. We'll be looking at the implications of that. Lee Anderson, the former Tory Vice Chairman, has defected to Reform UK. We'll hear from Westminster. Plus, we'll be speaking to the woman who found messages in a bottle cast out to sea by primary school pupils in Fife in 1984.
Oh, I love these stories.
I know.
Yes, 1984. So there'll be lots of people in Fife thinking, oh, maybe that was me, maybe that was my primary school.
I think they found who the primary school pupils were as well.
Oh, have they? Oh, well. Well, that's good. That's good.
Nice. Pupils at Wormit Primary.
Wormit Primary, there you go. Thank you very much, Vary. Who's with you today?
It's Andrew.
Andrew. Vary and Andrew coming up at 12 o'clock with Lunchtime Live.
That was...
Being single has never been so much fun. Lines are open 24 hours, so call the Singles Network on 0891 808 808.
Just coming up to 11:30. Kay Adams with you on BBC Scotland until 12. Coming up before then, well, YouTube, they've changed theirs.
Should we be worried about them? Can they think for themselves? What on earth is an algorithm?
Yeah, we are going to try and unpack algorithms for you. And Ryan Gosling stole the show at the Oscars last night with his performance of I'm Just Ken.
All night long.
Okay, we're going to have one call.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Now, it's been revealed that YouTube has made changes to its algorithm to prevent people being pushed ever more extreme content. Welcome news for those concerned about the nature of material being consumed, especially by young people. And also leaves us with this question still of what is and isn't down to the algorithm, or maybe even for those of us who are not so sure, what is the algorithm? Tech expert Brian Baglow hopefully can explain. I'm sure he can. Morning, Brian.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we're also joined by psychologist Dr. Sarah Hodge. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So, Brian, I'm happy to be the useful idiot here. Algorithms for Dummies, what is it?
Well, it's at its heart, Kate, it's a simple little bit of code that guesses what you would like to watch next.
Guesses. Right, okay. That's a key word. I'm going to write that one down.
Yes, so based on your viewing history and the searches that you've made and the things that it can see you're already doing, it attempts to give you more of the same because it keeps you there for a little bit longer and means that you're, you become a regular visitor or a much bigger YouTube user. So at heart, it's that simple. It gets way more complicated once you bring in AI and machine learning and big data and the like. But if you think about it, it's the website trying to guess what you like and give you more of it.
Right, okay. So in terms of YouTube saying that they've made changes to their algorithm to prevent people being pushed ever more extreme content, it suggests they've got a huge, not just YouTube, but I mean all of these platforms that use algorithms, they've got a huge amount of control then over what we watch.
Indeed. This is one of the reasons why sites like YouTube and of course TikTok, as it is now, are having increasingly more influence on people and are successfully keeping people engaged for longer and longer periods because they're giving you more of what you like. And based on the sheer, huge number of users that they've got, if they can see, 100 people who watch cat videos or cooking videos also like this, then you're going to find it popping up more and more often in your feed. So yes, they can curate and sort of control what it is you're seeing really quite closely.
Yeah, but I mean, to bring in Dr. Sarah Hodge, I mean, if we're talking cat videos and cooking videos, if you get more of same, it doesn't seem to be that problematic. But it's interesting, Sarah, that YouTube have said this is to prevent people being pushed ever more extreme content, which is a much more worrying perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a much more worrying perspective, but really positive to hear that they're taking the steps because, a lot of people, and there's been lots of campaigns to sort of try and manage this, that people get exposed to a lot of content that isn't very nice or that they don't want to see.
What kind of impact do you think? I mean, we're learning all the time, aren't we? I mean, we are now, swimming in a digital world. It's part of almost every aspect of our living, but it's still fairly recent, in historical terms. What have we learned about the impact of, the digital world and the content that we are viewing on us and our behaviours and our attitudes?
Well, I think one of the kind of examples I wanted to draw on was, it's really nice to acknowledge that, many of us sort of use this technology and we like it when the algorithm finds stuff for us that we like. That is the benefit of it doing the guessing and finding something that we like. Some of the concerns that have come about is when it's focusing on some of the topics more than others, because what it can create is something called an echo chamber where we can basically get stuck listening to the same things or seeing the same things and being exposed to certain content. And if that content is harmful, then it's even more concerning to sort of be stuck in that kind of cycle of just being shown all this content.
And what kind of impact can that have on individuals?
Well, to be honest, we're really not sure yet what kind of impact it has. But the things that we do think are that it would be very hard for somebody to actually get the other perspectives, other differing opinions. If they're seeing very extreme content,
they need something else to sort of balance it. And if they're not getting that balance, then it might lead them into more extreme content and help feed that cycle. So that's really where the concerns are, that it can trap people in that cycle.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, Brian? Because, you know, this comes up relatively often, doesn't it? Real concern about people being fed particular types of content, not having that perspective that Sarah is talking about, falling into an echo chamber, etc. And you will often get the big tech giants who are going, well, nothing we can do about it, is there really? You know, I mean, that's just what people want, you know, and it's like a hands-off approach. But, you know, in this with YouTube saying, well, we've changed our algorithm, well, that clearly exposes that as fake, doesn't it?
Well, this is where we find ourselves at the moment, Kate. All the big tech companies are trying to say we are not moderating, we're not controlling the content, we're just producing the technology, and what's posted is up to people. Because the alternative for them is having to police everything, all the content out there. And that's just almost impossible. And so a lot of them do have automatic moderation and things where they can strip out really awful, harmful stuff, you know, including adult content. But yes, this is something that they're going to have to get to grips with, because as more and more people come online, and we still have several billion folk worldwide who are just stepping into the digital world thanks to things like mobile phones, it's predominantly through the great big tech platforms, the social media platforms, the media sharing platforms. And there's an awful lot of debate, discussion, and new regulation coming down the pipe in countries all over the world, including the UK, EU, US, and so on, to make them take a more hands-on approach. So we're in for an interesting ride over the next few years.
I mean, what level of transparency, and I suspect I might know the answer to this question before I ask it, but what level of transparency is there around, you know, the parameters of these algorithms or the drivers of these algorithms?
Very little. And if you introduce AI into that, it could vanish almost entirely, because how does the AI make decisions? We don't know. How do you audit AI is another big question for the tech world right now. But none of them make their algorithms, make their sort of, if you like this, then you see that, particularly available to the public. So it's not something that you can, you know, use as a basis for choosing whether or not you want to go on YouTube or join TikTok or whatever the case may be.
Is there any pressure for them to be more transparent?
Again, governments around the world are looking at this very seriously because of the harm, because in a lot of cases some of the extreme material out there can be incredibly harmful. So it is being looked at, but we're starting to see some of the new pieces of legislation appear in areas like the EU. Whether or not they will have the desired impact, we don't yet know. But, the tech giants are not struggling to open themselves up and make themselves more accountable.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, do you think that would be a helpful thing for these tech giants to be compelled to be more transparent about what is driving their algorithms? I mean, one can assume that their bottom line is they want as many people to watch as much content for as long as possible that they possibly can. But, if they had to be very explicit about the fact that the way that they do that is by giving people, in certain instances, more extreme content, then, it would make them a bit more vulnerable and open to challenge.
I think so, and I think it's also really important from the person using it. We all use technology, and I think having that transparency is actually really important for all of us to know, because it will help us make the decisions when we use it. If we could have the choice whether we actually engage in algorithms or not, because at the moment it's automatic. And a lot of people do fall to the automatic generation of the algorithms. And I think that would be really beneficial for them to know more about it.
Brian, this is slightly off topic, but you will know about these things. For some reason, it was a conversation that we had on this programme a few weeks ago. I don't think you were even involved in it, but it was about cookies and whether or not you should accept cookies or not. And anyway, whatever, the conversation convinced me that I should reject cookies in most instances, which is a giant pain in the buttocks, I have to say, but I have stuck to it. Am I wasting my time?
No, not at all. It's so cookies are essentially asking you to opt in to sharing your data and to tracking your progress. Now, websites do that for a reason. It's, as you say, it's a colossal pain in the butt if you don't, because it remembers you and remembers what you've done on the website. So it means it can take you back to the same places and again feed you more of the same content, especially when it comes to retailers and sites that are trying to flog you something. So no, it's not a waste of time, because what it means is that you're coming in and you're being almost seen as a new user every time. So it's not the website, the platform, the tech is not accumulating data on you. So, you know, the big data argument is something that we've not heard since Cambridge Analytica and, you know, the referendum. But it's a growing problem, and it's one that we're trying to solve through pieces of legislation like GDPR, the new Digital Markets Act. There's all sorts of new laws being enacted to try and increase privacy and make it simpler for people to have greater control over their online presence. But boy, it's a hard one right now.
Well, yeah, and no standardisation because, you know, like I say, I have vowed to do it and I'm sticking to it. But I mean, obviously, you're on various kind of websites and platforms multiple times a day. Some of them do make it very easy and it's just accept or reject and boom, it's done. But I mean, for lots and lots of them, you have to plough through so many different pages that, you know, I think, oh God, well, I just accept it to make my life easier. Should it not at least be standardised?
Well, that is a very, very good point. And for consumers and for users, yes, it probably should be. But, you know, each website, each sort of storefront, each platform that you're on has its own rules, has its own particular sets of terms and conditions. And, you know, those in themselves, if you've ever installed a piece of software, you get pages and pages and pages of stuff that you're never going to read, but you're expected to scroll to the end and, you know, click assent because it means that, you know, the tech company is covering their butt. But it's a really difficult one right now because we've got the market trying to drive things forward, and big data does have some huge, you know, benefits and advantages for us as a society. But at the same time, how do you take control and keep control of your own personal data and decide the level of privacy that you want? And that's where I think we need the standardisation, which is if you want to be anonymous, that's fine. But again, how do we verify that it's actually you? Because there are some people out there who are remaining anonymous that are engaged with very, you know, unseemly behaviour.
Yeah, and it does take you back to the sort of essence of the algorithm discussion, which is, you know, do we need more transparency here and do we need more individual control over how our data is being used and indeed the content that we're being fed? An ongoing conversation. Brian, thank you very much indeed. Brian Baglow there and cyber psychologist Dr. Sarah Hodge.
Red Nose Day is back.
3, 2, 1, go!
Grab your popcorn and fizzy rosé for The Traitors, the movie.
Yes!
Regional radio legend Alan Partridge is back for a special comic relief broadcast.
It's that time.
And it may be Seleni's last year hosting, but don't worry, the fine folks at W1A will be finding his replacement.
It's a big job, a huge challenge.
Get ready for comic relief, funny for money. Friday at 7 on BBC iPlayer.
Lyrics by L. Ron Hubbard. Pick up a copy today, wherever paperbacks are sold.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Shear, host of USA Up All Night.
And I'm Gilbert Gottfried, host of USA Up All Night.
I'll show you lots of fun movies.
I'll show you lots of fun movies.
I do it Friday.
I do it Saturday. We both do the same thing. Only different.
USA Up All Night. The same, but different.
It is 11:45. Back tomorrow from 9 o'clock with the phone in. Our resident vet Ross Allen will be here after that for Ask the Vet surgery. So he's here to answer all of your pet related questions. If you'd like to get to the top of the queue, then 80295 is the text number. He's going to be discussing crufts and jogging with your dog. We'll find out why it takes more than 8 years to receive an endometriosis diagnosis. And as Dungeons and Dragons turns 50, is the board game good for your mental health? So all of that and more from 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Your mornings just got better.
On BBC Radio Scotland.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
It is 10 to 12, Lunchtime Live, of course, coming up with Valerie and Andrew at 12 o'clock. They'll be digging deeper into this photograph that was released yesterday by Kensington Palace of Princess of Wales, Catherine, and the three children, which now has been withdrawn by various news agencies saying that they feel it's been manipulated. She's put out a statement saying that she apologises for that. She occasionally experiments with editing. So it's an interesting story, which they will bring you updates on from 12 o'clock today. And I'm sure they'll be telling you about the Oscars as well. It brought more than 3 hours of glamour, tears, and full frontal nudity. I missed that bit. And of course, this standout performance.
I'm just kidding. When I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for me? I'm just kidding.
That's Ryan Gosling there. I haven't seen it yet. Apparently a fantastic performance of I'm Just Ken from the Barbie movie. I'm still gutted it didn't get more awards. But the songwriter claims that it has helped young boys to understand their feelings. We've got Colin McFarlane with his National Programme Director for YMCA Scotland. Morning, Colin.
Good morning, Kay.
Good morning. Is that ambitious that I'm Just Ken would help young boys understand their feelings?
I think any opportunity for young men to be hearing about ways to be able to embrace their emotions and understand music has a great way of enabling people to understand how they feel and represent how your emotions. So yeah, I think there's every opportunity it could.
Yeah. So in what way do you think that would be helpful, and in what way?
I think so. So we're involved at YMCA Scotland with a lot of work on positive masculinity and working with a range of partners on this. And so any way that young men can be exposed to the idea of being caring, nurturing, empathetic via role models or music, be that in the music field, be that in any of the sort of youth work programmes or the opportunities that a range of our partners deliver. I think any opportunity for young men to experience that is really, really positive.
I mean, given the range of music, I suspect there's probably more potential negative influences than there are positive.
I would say yes and no. There has obviously been, I remember when rap music first came out, and there was lots of real challenges around how women are portrayed in rap music, and we've seen backlashes against that and ways of sort of countering that. But I would also say music has an opportunity for people to be able to express how they're feeling and their emotions, and also enhance their mood or change their mood. So music is a tool, and it's how it's understood and represented that I think that's most important. Mm-hmm. And enabling young men to experience that range of emotions in safe, supported spaces is I think sort of more important than what actually they're listening to.
Professor Raymond MacDonald joins us, Chair of Music Psychology and Improvisation at the University of Edinburgh. Good morning, Raymond.
Hello.
Good morning. Do you think music, and I guess we're talking about popular music here, can actually influence people's attitudes and behaviours in the real world?
Actually, yes. The short answer is yes, and there is now a growing body of evidence to show that music affects how we think, music affects how we behave, and affects our interactions. It's such an important part of our life. I would just absolutely echo what your previous person was just saying there, that music is, helps us understand our emotions, and also when we listen to music, it affects our emotions as well. And particularly for young men, because if young men have problems expressing their emotions verbally, then music can sometimes put into emotion what we can't express in language, and it can actually help us understand how to deal with complex and sophisticated emotions. So the short answer is yes. There's quite a growing body of evidence now to show how music affects all aspects of our behaviour.
What about perhaps the more passive effects potentially of music? I mean, you're talking there, and Colin McFarlane was as well, about helping individuals understand their emotions. But if we're talking about some popular music that is out there, and I've got a particular example here that's quite interesting, which is kind of feeding a particular narrative, particular sets of language, can that subconsciously seep in a negative way? And here's the little example, Raymond. I was in a fitness class recently, and I usually tune out of music, to be honest. That's just the way my brain works. But for some reason, I tuned in this day. And the tracks that they were playing, I'm going to sound like Mary Whitehouse here, but I mean, the language was really, really strong, shall we say. The message was, I would argue, pretty misogynistic. And I thought, wow, that is just getting pumped out casually in a fitness class. How much is this happening? And can that affect the way that people think, feel and react?
Mm-hmm. I guess the short answer is yes. I mean, if we're discussing the potential positive effects that music has, then yes. When we're listening to these types of, as you say, misogynistic lyrics, then there's the potential for music to unconsciously affect us in negative ways as well. But I think the way in which music affects us is complex too. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's a causal effect between listening to misogynistic lyrics and behaving in a misogynistic way. But yeah, there's every possibility that music can affect us in negative ways as well.
Right. So not causal, but what do you think the effects would be of listening to, misogynistic lyrics and highly sexualised lyrics in music on a regular basis?
Well, I guess when I'm asked that, and it comes up quite often, I think looking to other sources of antisocial behaviour, so issues around poverty and issues around people's relationships within the family, I think these have much bigger influences on negative stereotypes and negative behaviour, perhaps, than music might have. So I think often when we look to music as being the root of particularly bad behaviour, we're ignoring much more fundamental societal problems that produce this bad behaviour.
Yeah, though I suppose if you're going to say, well, actually, it's not the deciding factor in bad behaviour, then it's probably not the deciding factor in good behaviour either.
Absolutely. However, it can have a very strong effect on good, if you like, good behaviour as well. And if, for example, if we're saying there's a particular problem in male identities currently right now in terms of how male express their emotions, how they communicate emotions, and if there's an issue around emotional literacy, then music can play a very important role in helping understand our emotions and helping how to communicate our emotions. And I think that's where Barbie was quite an interesting film, because on the one hand it was poking fun at the patriarchy, and on one hand it was a kind of comedy film, but on the other hand it opened the window into discussing these sorts of very important issues that we're currently facing in society.
I mean, Colin, I know you do a lot of work with young men. Do you find, I mean, let's take the Barbie movie as an example, an example of popular culture. Do you find it useful to start conversations?
I would say, unfortunately, I don't do a lot of work face-to-face now with young men, but I have done over my career and working with the YMCA. I think what the point that was made is that there are a whole range of societal factors that impact on young men, of which music and culture is one or two of. And what we are trying to do now is actually engage young men in those conversations. So yes, the Barbie and the Ken song would be something I would use in my practice if I'm working with young men, to say, this is somebody talking about their emotions, their feelings, and how they view themselves as part of society. How do you feel yourself? How do you engage in the world? And how do we give young men the opportunity to explore their identity? And it doesn't have to be young men, young women, people of all genders, or none. And how do we enable them and support them to make the choices? Because it's all about that relationship between choice and consequence. And young people, and in this case young men, being able to explore that and in a safe and supported space.
I mean, we often hear that young men these days are confused. That's something you'll hear trotted out. Is that your experience?
I could only say yes. The world, I'm a more mature member of the community, so the world I grew up in doesn't exist anymore. But I've got 3 kids. I've got a daughter at 19. I've got 2 boys at 11 and 14. The world they're experiencing now is completely and utterly alien to what my experience of the world was. So It's how do we, with so many other pressures on young people nowadays, how do we support them and enable them to make the right decisions for them that then have a greater benefit for us as our local community, our wider communities and society.
Sure. Colin, thank you very much indeed. Professor Raymond MacDonald, thank you as well.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Back tomorrow morning.